Get your filthy hands off me. I don't need some ghetto charity case wiping me down. Those words, spoken soft as a scalpel, cut through the old money hush of the St. Regis Astor Court in New York like a goddamn chainsaw. The whole room just stopped. Even the harpist hit a sour note and froze, Balmadaire. Billionaire chatter about mergers and Hampton's summers evaporated, replaced by a heavy silence you could almost taste, one that cost more than most folks' yearly salary. All eyes flicked to table one, and out of nowhere, a sea of little red smartphone lights winked on beneath white napkins. It was like a room full of sharks catching the scent of blood. Everybody knew, in that instant, this wasn't just a dinner anymore. It was about to be a reckoning that I want you to remember this feeling, because what you're about to hear isn't a fairy tale. It's what happens when arrogance meets the wrong target and forgets the world is always watching. If you're one of those people who believes respect is worth more than any stock ticker, stick with me. This is a story about power, prejudice, and the catastrophic mistake of underestimating the person pouring your wine. And yeah, that revolution, it was recorded. Right there at the eye of the storm sat Julian Thorne, 42, Apex Dynamics CEO, every inch the tech king, hair sculpted, Tom Ford suit pressed sharp as a razor, and ego so big he probably needed his own private jet for it alone. He flicked at his sleeve, barely a stain, just a couple drops of 1982 Petrus that would buy a new Honda, and scowled like the universe itself had insulted him. Across from him, Ava Sterling stood with a water pitcher in one hand, linen cloth in the other, back straight, gaze locked in. She was 28, but there was something ancient about the way she looked at him, like she'd seen all this before and was tired of pretending it was new. She didn't flinch, didn't apologize, didn't beg, just stood there, letting the silence swallow the whole room. That was her answer. No panic, no tears, just calm, unblinking presence. I gotta tell you, that kind of strength, that's rare. What Julian didn't know, what almost no one in that room knew, was that Ava wasn't just another overqualified waitress trying to make rent. She was there on purpose, undercover in a world of white gloves and whispered fortunes, collecting intelligence for the only man in the room whose opinion mattered. Marcus Vance, the kingmaker, the investor Julian desperately needed for his $5 billion acquisition, was Ava's father. And Julian had just insulted his daughter in front of God, the board, and half of Wall Street, all with the world watching. Now, let me back up a sec. Ava's life wasn't supposed to end up here, in this gold-plated lion's den. She grew up on grit and sacrifice. Her mom lost to cancer when Ava was barely 18, her dad just a ghost on a birth certificate, until Marcus found her years later. She was once a Stanford track star, Olympic-bound, but life took a sharp left. Medical bills, rent, her little brother Leo's cerebral palsy, and endless appointments. She traded stadium cheers for late-night diner shifts, 3 jobs, online business classes between pouring coffee and running plates. She didn't ask for pity. She believed in quiet work. Dignity wasn't some Instagram hashtag. It was how you carried yourself in the dark when nobody was looking. When Marcus, now in her life, offered her everything, corner office, trust fund, the whole fantasy, she turned him down flat. I can't lead from a skyscraper. I need to see what you're building from the ground up, she told him. So she went undercover, working service jobs to witness how power really moved, what people did when they thought nobody of consequence was watching. It turned out, those at the top rarely passed that test. Julian Thorne was the perfect case study. A man who treated people like tools, ruthless in the boardroom, worshipped by investors, feared by employees. To him, servers weren't even worth a glance. That blind spot, it was about to cost him everything. That night, the ballroom was humming. Industry giants, senators pretending not to schmooze, the whole pantheon of American power in one gilded room, with Marcus Vance at the center. At 68, Marcus was a legend, a silent, steady force. He didn't invest in companies. He invested in character. If he didn't like the founder's soul, he'd walk away from billions. Ava had memorized the profile of every guest, knew who liked their water sparkling and who was diabetic. Also, she could disappear and watch. She was ready for anything, except the accident. A junior exec, eager to impress, knocked Ava's arm mid-pour. Wine dribbled onto Julian's cufflink. Ava went to apologize, napkin in hand, but Julian cut her off with that line, those words. The room froze. He didn't look at her, just at the spot she'd tainted, dabbing at it like she was contagious. Phone started buzzing. Forks hung midair. One of his VPs tried to laugh it off, but the joke died in his throat. Ava just stood there, stone still, refusing to break. Across the table, Marcus laid down his fork. That tiny clink was louder than a gunshot. He stared at Julian, then Ava, with a calm so deep it made the air vibrate. Ava stepped back, offered the table a polite, "Please enjoy your meal," and vanished into the periphery. But the damage wasn't to her. It was to Julian. That crack beneath his Italian loafers? It was already widening. Marcus had seen men like Julian all his life. Different names, same arrogance, same fatal flaw. His mother, a survivor of post-war Berlin, taught him the power of silence and observation. "Watch how they treat people when they think no one important is looking," she'd said. Tonight, Julian paraded his truth in front of the only person whose opinion could destroy him. Marcus leaned to his assistant, Klaus, and whispered, "It's time." Klaus slipped away, phone in hand. The room kept moving, but the soul was gone. Julian kept pitching, louder now, desperate, his cronies nodding like dashboard bobbleheads. Marcus just sipped his water and watched. Ava returned, serving everyone else first, saving Julian for last, a silent rebuke everyone at that table felt. Julian, still convinced he could bully his way back to control, grabbed Ava's wrist when she tried to refill his glass. Not enough to bruise, just enough to say, "You're beneath me." Ava didn't flinch. She looked him dead in the eye, said, "Yes, sir, I understand completely," and slipped free, dignity untouched. Marcus watched it all, then signaled to Klaus again. 2 words, furious, executed. Within moments, everything shifted. Marcus stood. The entire ballroom went silent, as if the chandeliers themselves leaned in. He looked at Ava, father to daughter, soldier to comrade, then turned to Julian. "Before we continue," he said, "there's someone in this room you haven't been properly introduced to." He motioned for Ava. She stepped forward, apron gone, uniform gone, walking tall. "This is my daughter, Ava Sterling," Marcus announced. You should have seen Julian's face. Confusion, then horror, then a sort of gray, sick collapse. Marcus explained, Ava wasn't working here for the paycheck. She was here to see how powerful men treat those with no power. Tonight, all of you witnessed that lesson. The phones came up. The silence was replaced by a chorus of buzzing notifications as Julian's entire career started unraveling in real time. Marcus laid it out plain. The woman you tried to humiliate is a Stanford honors grad, a caretaker, my heir, and the future of my company. The deal is off. I suggest you check your stock price. And that's when the exodus started. First one, then another, then a flood of investors, their chairs scraping the marble like thunder. Phones glowed, fingers typed. Apex Dynamics stocks started to nosedive before dessert hit the table. Julian stood alone at the head, his kingdom already crumbling, his phone a brick of panic and rage. By midnight, he was suspended. By sunrise, he was a meme. His name, his failure, everywhere. But the real twist? Next morning, Ava walked into Vance Capital's HQ. Not as a server, not as a charity case, but as chief conscience officer, a new role Marcus created for her, one with the power and budget to invest in companies that put people first. Later that day, she took the stage, live-streamed to thousands. Yesterday, she said, a man in power tried to make me feel small. He failed. For too long, we've celebrated predators as leaders. That era ends today. From now on, our return on investment will be measured in integrity. The room erupted. They didn't see just Marcus's daughter. They saw hope. A better way. So here's the thing. This wasn't just about a billionaire and a waitress. It's about all of us. About how we act when nobody's watching. About the little choices, the ways we treat people we think don't matter. That's what reveals our true character. Julian Thorne didn't fall because he was bad at business. He fell because he was bankrupt as a human being. Ava reminded us that dignity isn't given or taken, it's lived quietly, fiercely, and without apology. I'll ask you, what would you do if you knew the person you dismissed or ignored held your future in their hands? Would you treat them differently? Maybe the real question is, why should it even matter? If you believe dignity is never optional, share this story. Because our legacy isn't written in headlines or dollars. It's written in how we treat people every single day. And that story, it starts with you. Right now, thanks for listening. If you're here for stories that actually matter, stick around. Because the world changes, not with noise, but with courage, one act of dignity at a time.